Palace is an ancient and sprawling structure nestled in the teeming city of Lucknow. Once you enter through the gate of the palace, you find yourself stepping into the poise of a bygone era and get to see vignettes of forgotten history. Vintage cars, trees seasoned by the many decades they saw passing by, the yellow and off-white arches lining up the entire breadth of the building complete the exterior view of the palace. Inside, we meet Ali Khan Mahmudabad, the current prince of the Mahmudabad lineage of rulers. This palace is historical in many ways. It had hosted a one-of-a-kind meeting of the Indian National Congress way back in the early 20th century.
Well, to interrupt you, it's a funny thing that our walk ends on this note, because this is the room in 1916 where the Lucknow Pact was drafted famously, where the Muslim League and the Congress came together to present a list of demands to the British. So this is the room in which it all happened. Of course, most famously, the Congress was represented by Banu Taim and the Muslim League by Jinnah. So those were those early days of the independence movement. Many other things happened here. From the garden here, when Simon Commission was happening, they flew kites with black kites, and on the kites was written Simon go back. Okay. And they, there's kite flying is a big pastime here in other places. And so they flew the kites in a certain way where they would track the kites and they would land in the path where Simon was.
Ali Khan Mahmudabad is the only son of Muhammad Amir Ahmad Khan, the last king of Mahmudabad. Muhammad Amir Ahmad Khan is better known in history as a financier and treasurer of the Muslim League during certain periods of the freedom struggle and India's partition in the early days of independence.
Well, of course, I think in current politics, the favorite generation or the favorite person who a lot of people talk about is my grandfather, who was a treasurer of the Muslim League and he went to Pakistan. And people bring this up a lot. But his father was the president of the Congress Party. My own father was in the Congress, he was MLA twice. And I'm in the Samajwadi Party. So I can at least say that even though, yes, it is a political family, each generation we've made our own choices and frankly, we have been given the freedom to also disagree.
Ali Khan's mother was a Hindu. He studied history at the University of Cambridge and is an assistant professor of history and political science at the Ashoka University near the national capital of Delhi. This Cambridge-educated young man, whose political leanings align with the Samajwadi Party in Uttar Pradesh, also has another lesser-known passion.
آغاز الكلمة أي المقصودة في الاصطلاح أولاً وظاهراً وباطناً وآخر أنجامها.
He is meticulously working on a project to digitize and preserve 2,000 odd Persian, Arabic and Urdu manuscripts that his palace had become home to over centuries.
So in the pre-modern world, one of the most important objects from which we can learn about the past are manuscripts. And my family has had a collection and built a collection of manuscripts over the last few generations. Most of these manuscripts are in Arabic, in Persian and in Urdu. And one of the most important things that is happening across the world right now is to digitize these manuscripts.
All these manuscripts are many centuries old.
We were fortunate that we got a grant from the Endangered Archives project of the British Library in London to start digitizing these manuscripts so that they can be put on websites, on the British Library website, and so that scholars can use them to understand our past. Now, a manuscript, you might wonder why a manuscript is important. Well, firstly, before the printing press, manuscripts actually tell us a great deal, not only as objects, which is referred to as codicology, in terms of ink, paper, writing style, orthography, and so on, But also the manuscript and the text it contains is very interesting because there were such few manuscripts that they traveled across cultures. Often people would put their stamps on them. So they tell us a great deal about the past. The manuscripts we have in Mahmudabad are from literature, from Arabic, from Persian.
The British Library supports this digitization venture with finance and technical expertise.
So the manuscripts we have in our collection in Mahmudabad, they're almost 2,500 manuscripts. As I said, they're in Arabic, Persian and Urdu, and they cover a range of subjects: history, philosophy, theology, jurisprudence, law, mathematics, astronomy, and we are very fortunate. It's a very diverse collection, and we started digitizing it over the course of the last few years, and slowly what we hope to do is to have the entire collection digitized, and it will be online.
Indian history, culture and literature were greatly enriched and influenced by the interactions with Persian and Arabic literature.
So what we have here is we've set up a digitization station in order to digitize and provide very high resolution images. As you can see, it's a very difficult and time-consuming project because there are international standards according to which each page needs to be scanned, and then of course we create metadata like this, so that the country in which the manuscript is, city, library, the source, we have descriptive notes, outer dimension, author, title, language, and so on. We have an old list of all these manuscripts which was compiled with the help of the Noor Microfilm Center and the Iranian Cultural Center, and they compiled this many years ago. It's still incomplete. It was done in a hurry, and much more needs to be done because a lot of the Urdu manuscripts are not in this book. But anyway, it gives us a good indication, and we use this to cross-check a lot of the manuscripts that have been digitized.
Each of these pages bear testimony to this magnificent confluence of these great cultures.
A lot of these books, because of course they're made with paper, it's an organic material. Unless you keep them properly, they're damaged by worm, by silverfish. You can see here, for instance, in this book, there is these little holes in the manuscript. These are because of insects. So just to give you an idea, this is a very beautiful little book. It is a prayer manual, and I will just show you the beginning of it, we've put it's called Sahifa Kamila, so it's a prayer manual attributed to the fourth Imam, Imam Zainul Abidin, who was the great grandson of the Prophet. And it's from 1105 Hijri of the Islamic calendar. We are currently in 1443, so it's more than 330 years old. More than that, my maths is not very good, but more than 300 years old. And if you look at this, for example, this is the stamp that was put there in terms of who has owned it earlier. And some of the bigger manuscripts have these very interesting stamps, and now this is very, very fragile, so I have to be very careful. But you can see the kind of it almost looks like it's printed, and they've tried to decorate the margins. Here you have a little hole probably made by a silverfish, and again this one also has marginalia. It has these notes in the margins, probably put in after the manuscript, but sometimes during the writing of the manuscript. Important words, corrections were often done in the margin, and this was now it's an object of history, but this would have been someone's private prayer manual.
Ali Khan, by curating and preserving them, is adding a new page to the shared history of humanity.
Sometimes these moved from one country to another. So for instance, the manuscript that was being digitized earlier, Jurjan was a place near Astarabad, and often people were moving in the Persianate world. This is during Taimur's time, between Iran, Central Asia, and with them knowledge was moving, students were moving, manuscripts were moving. And so, these books tell us a great deal about the past. I mean, this is, here we have another book, not so old, it's only from 1312 Hijri, which is about 130 years old, 131 years old. And you can see here that it's a different, so if you compare the writing, for instance, in this book, which is a form of naskh or Arabic calligraphy, and you compare it to this font, this writing style is called nastaliq, which is reserved for Persian and Urdu texts. So again, this also tells you a lot about the changes and the kind of aesthetic preferences that people had, the kind of the changes often that calligraphy itself underwent. So, this is a slow, painstaking project, but an important project to preserve our past and to complicate our understanding of the past, and also see in the pre-modern world today, we just take out our mobile phone and we Wikipedia or Google things, but for the pre-modern world, each of these little manuscripts has a unique history to tell us.